The game of basketball has become a global phenomenon and is arguably one of the most popular sports in the entire world. With the NBA being as popular as it has ever been globally, and with leagues such as the Euro League, the Liga ACB in Spain, and the Chinese Basketball Association leading the charge and exposing kids in their respective regions every day, it really isn't a surprise that basketball has become as big as it has worldwide. Although the sport is such a global attraction, there's a great number of people who know very little about the history of basketball. So welcome to Cager Scoops. I am Evan Samuels, and this is why basketball was created. So before we get started with why basketball was created, let me give you a little backstory on the man who created basketball. So a man by the name of James Naismith was born on November 6, 1861 in Almonte, Ontario, Canada, and was orphaned as a child, so he lived with his aunt and uncle. He attended Almonte High School and graduated high school in 1883. He went on to earn his degree from McGill University and Presbyterian College in Montreal. He would then leave Presbyterian College as an unordained minister to pursue a career in physical education. An opportunity at a YMCA in Springfield, no, not that Springfield, but the one in Massachusetts, would present itself to Naismith, where he would take and teach courses that emphasize spiritual and physical development. So why did he create basketball? Well, as you can imagine, it gets pretty cold during the winter months in Massachusetts, and the popular sports at the time were rugby, lacrosse, American football, soccer, baseball, and hockey. 5 of the 6 sports I just mentioned are outdoor sports, and hockey is a very, very brutal sport that not all can play. So in 1891, while working at the Springfield YMCA, James Naismith was given the task to introduce a new indoor game with 2 main objectives: to make it fair for all players and free of rough play. So Naismith began to analyze some of the popular sports of the time, like the ones I mentioned previously, and he noticed a couple of things. One being that he wanted to create a game of skill for the students and not one that relied on strength, and 2, that the larger balls didn't move as swiftly as the smaller ones, so he chose a soccer ball for the new game. He eliminated tackling from the game to remove rough play and to limit potential injuries that could occur on the wooden floors, and he also realized that in other sports, contact occurred when the object was carried, so he eliminated running with the ball. The next observation was that physical play was most common when defenses tried to guard the goal, net, or goal line, so he felt that he should place the goal overhead where it couldn't be guarded. Although he eliminated a problem of the goal being guarded, he created a new problem, as this new game would be the only sport where the goal was above the plane of the playing area. So how would they shoot and score? Well, Naismith would go back to a game he played as a child in order to figure out how players would shoot and score in his new game. When Naismith was a child, there was a large stone that was in a blacksmith's yard where kids would play a game on the stone called Duck on a Rock. This was like a version of tag, but it included throwing rocks. The objective was to place a large stone called the duck on this bigger rock, and one player would stand by the duck. The other players would stand in a line and take turns throwing rocks or stones at the duck and would try to knock it off. Once it was knocked off, all the players would run and retrieve their rocks and try to get back into line before they got tagged. Anyways, back to how this game played into how Naismith visioned player scoring in his new game. Well, the kids realized that if they threw their rocks in a lob-like manner instead of like how you throw a baseball, it wouldn't bounce back as hard and it would be easier to retrieve. So, Naismith, remembering how successful the lob-like shot was in Ducks on a Rock, he incorporated it into a shooting method for his new game, basketball. After creating some basic rules for basketball and figuring out how the game would work in regards to team length, how long the game would last, and figuring out the scoring, Naismith decided to experiment with his new game at the Springfield YMCA. In late 1891, James Naismith implemented the game of basketball, and the first game was played with a soccer ball and 2 peach baskets. And as we can all tell, seeing how basketball is viewed today, the game was a huge success and has went through a ton of evolution since James Naismith first invented the game. For a game that was initially played with a soccer ball and 2 peach baskets, let's just say basketball has exceeded the expectations that James Naismith had in mind when he was given the task to create a new game that was basically just only needed to keep kids indoors and safe during the winter months, so when spring rolled around, they could go out and actually play the popular sports at the time. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you will always be notified of new videos and so that you can stay in the scoop with Cager Scoops. Don't forget to check out our social media as well. Twitter and Instagram at Cager Scoops. With that being said, I'm Evan Samuels, and now you know why basketball was created.